Right, now this will tell us. And that's pretty conclusive. Still going. Close. I think he got it down.
How strong is he?
Yeah, welcome back to the Pick and Go, your one-stop podcast for all things rugby union. And I'm not in Wellington today. Unfortunately, I'm up in Auckland. But we do have, who would have thought? We're in the world as Wally. We're in the world as Piri. We found him. He's back. He's in the Wellington studio. Piri Weepu, welcome back on, bro.
Hey, just hanging out with Scott and Nigel here.
Where have you been, bro?
Oh, I've been busy with bloody rugby, netball, league campaigns. So, yeah, been busy.
I did see you on the quad comp where your boys just went down to, was it Nelson College? Yep. Great game.
No, it's good. Usually our boys are pretty slow at the start of the game, and it usually takes a little bit of a pep talk for them to finally realise that if they stick to their guns, they'll go good. And unfortunately, it was a bit too late against Nelson in the final, but we're pretty proud of the boys, to go down there and give it a crack. Would have been better if they gave it a crack right from the start, from the first whistle. But hey, we're still happy with the way that things panned out.
I guess they take after their coach, to be fair, a wee bit. Anyway, we've also got Ben Searle of Surly Talk Sports. Surly, welcome back in again, bro.
Yeah, cheers for having me. It was interesting watching that game, eh? Jeff was on commentary. I don't know if you've listened to it back, Piri, but he didn't have much things nice to say about you, to be fair. No. He was very complimentary of the style of footy Wellington College were playing. So it was a great watch.
Wow, I'm glad you mentioned Jeff Wilson because we've got him back again as well. So it looks like three of us are up here around the Auckland area. Piri all by himself down in Wellington. Jeff, welcome back in, mate.
Oh, it was an absolute pleasure commentating Wellington College. Played the right way, just unfortunately not the right way in the first 20, like Piri says, in the second half. Both games, actually, outstanding on day one in the second half as well. I was going to talk about it was a shame about the co-commentator, but anyway. Look, it's a great tournament, isn't it? It's a great traditional, and one of the reasons I think, Sky wanted to put it back on TV because when you're showcasing talent, we got to see some more of it, so it's pretty cool.
Righty-ho. Look, there was quite a lot of stuff that happened over the weekend. I guess what we should probably mention is between the four of us, we've played over 130 games for the All Blacks, and that's nothing to be sneezed at. But I bring that up because there are a number of debutants in the first test for the All Blacks against France, and I just wanted to check with Jeff and with Piri, what was it like when they first got, and I'm hoping they can remember back that far, what it was like when they got their call up. How did it actually happen? I know, like way back in the day, you had to wait until the team was announced on the radio. But I'm guessing you guys got a phone call first. We'll start with you first, Jeff.
Okay, so I've told the story a few times, but I had not played in a game. Otago played Waikato in Hamilton, and it was, I think, a semi-final of NPC. I am stretching back here in terms of the circumstances. I remember I was actually in the stand because Greg Cooper was playing fullback that day. Paul Cook, John Teemer was on the wing. It was the return of Greg Cooper after the infamous Richard Lowe incident, with the scratchy eyes and stuff, Anyway, so it was a big
accident. It was an accident.
Yeah, an accident, yeah. According to Lowe. I was sitting in the stands. Anyway, we got a hiding, so I was grateful that I wasn't playing, but they named the All Blacks the next day. But this was a time where they sort of didn't, there was no way to contact everybody. So they rang the managers of the teams that night, the night before. I was in the middle of a court session. I'm not lying. So we'd lost, got a hiding. So in those days, you had to commiserate. It was an afternoon game, so everything happened a little bit earlier. And in a relief stop, I'm not halfway through the session, the manager calls me over and tells me that I'm going to be named in the All Blacks the next morning. And he said, "You've now got 2 minutes to use that phone on the wall to ring your parents before you've got to be back in session or you'll get fined."
So we're talking, this is prior to cell phones.
Yeah, what? This is a different generation. I can't even remember the internet. Like, this is prior to the internet. This is 1993, so this is right on the cusp. Yeah, I don't think it had made it to New Zealand, and certainly hadn't made it to Invercargill. I had to ring 010, collect call.
Yeah.
If they hadn't accepted the charges, they would never have found out. so they were happy it was a 2-minute call anyway. So literally I was on the phone ringing them and saying, well, tomorrow morning I'll get named in the All Blacks. That's how I found out. And then I had to go back into the court session, and there was a few guys that found out there as well, but there's a few guys that missed out. And so it was, and a couple of guys and so it was one of those things where, well, you can't show any emotion. I know that's a really tough court session to be through. But yeah, it was a crazy sort of experience. The fact that I had 2 minutes and a relief stop halfway through a court session. That's how I found out I was going to be in the All Blacks.
So you were driving back from Invercargill to Otago?
So no, we were in Hamilton.
Oh, and Hamilton
So
playing
it was an
Waikato.
away game. So I was even in the same. I wasn't even anywhere near where I was living. Like literally, we were on tour. We were on tour. We'd lost this game, got a hiding. I found out I was in the All Blacks, and it was going to happen the next morning. And because but in those days, like I say, we went straight into camp before because the All Blacks played the NPC finals and everything. Then played in the whole NPC. So yeah, that's how I found out. And the next morning, they named a squad of 30. For the fact that I didn't realise until I got into camp that John Kerwin wasn't in the squad. So he'd been dropped, and I'd got in.
It was your fault.
I'd turn in and go, Where's JK? And I said, well, the Auckland boys are all looking at me, giving the old, yeah, he's not here. It's like, it's going to be a long 6 weeks on the road. That's Sir John Kerwin. It's like, hey, Inga, how you going, bro? We're all good. We're tight. Finally got rid of him, mate. We'll get the ball. No stress here, Then he kicked me out the following year, JK. I sat on the bench. Anyway, we're tight now, me and him. Tight.
Yeah, good. Very good.
Was that the phones, back in the day where you have to do the old dial, reading it right to the end and then wait for it to go back?
Yeah, I went over, bro.
Fitty, what about you? How did you find out? Surely by the time you were in the All Blacks, it was like mobile phones is all...
Yeah, there was. We had team review, actually. Our season had pretty much finished, so we were at Rugby League Park doing a team review. Feeling a bit dusty as well. And they announced the squad there. I was downstairs. I wasn't even listening to the squad, to be honest, because I didn't even think I was going to be involved. And then went upstairs and the boys were telling me, congratulating me. So I was like, what are you on about? And they told me that I was named in the AB squad. And so I had heaps of missed phone calls from my parents, brother, and all my family and all that. And I was trying to figure out maybe someone had passed away. Oh my God!
Yeah, it was the previous halfback.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't until I picked my phone later that everyone knew before I even got the bloody got told. So yeah,
Your family and friends found out before you found out.
Yeah, because they actually listened to it. Whereas I didn't.
So what, you were going through a season review for the Wellington team?
Yeah, Wellington Lions at the
Who
time.
was the coach?
We had Plums and Boydie.
Plumtree. Oh, okay. Right. So back to Jeff. So you find out, you get named, right? You've got your court session. You get back into your court session, I'm guessing. Things go a lot. And what, were you travelling for the court session?
Basically it was just at the hotel because we had to wait until the next day to go home. So
to fly home.
And
right.
remember, these were the great days of afternoon rugby.
Yes.
So, this is the process you've played the game, and we've taken a hiding, and the cowbells have just been ringing in our ears for hours. From the moment we entered Hamilton to the moment we left, they just reminded us what it all meant. But we'd taken a hiding, but then you went after a game. It was a process, you went through. It was and we'd just obviously been knocked out as well. So we were looking forward to what was going to be winding down. At that point, I didn't drink actually, so I was in great shape. So, but then you went to after matches, and so you had one in the changing room. Then you went to the after match and had another one there. Then there was a supporters club where you went there, and then they had another one. Then you went back to the hotel. So you played your game, and then it's still only about 8:00. Like all of this is happened for 8:00, and then you get into a couple of hours. And I do remember. Then I sort of went out to celebrate, and I bumped into John Mitchell, and that's when John Mitchell had got first named in the All Blacks as well. He did drink, and he was well and truly on his way. Absolutely. So I ended up seeing him, and so we'd both been picked in the All Blacks for the first time. But at that point, though, it's a funny thing. You didn't know the team. You just knew you were in it, or the players around you who were in it. So for the Otago side, like Stewie Forster and Bash, and so we had a few, Mark Ellis and that. There was a few that were in there. Where they went and what they did, I don't want to know. And there'll ever be, if we know Mark, it'll have something to do with no clothes on, probably knowing him. But ultimately, I think it was a sort of crazy experience coming in. Okay, well, I'd known for about 24 hours before it all came public. You know, the next morning on the Sunday. So it's sort of on the Sunday as we're about to go to the airport. It's then okay. Now they've released the team, and then you're off to. And then, like I say, at that point, I didn't hear the team. All I knew was I was in it, and I didn't go and read the names. And you know, Wilson is a W. You're the last man picked. You know, like all of a sudden you're listening to the names and you're counting the numbers. My whole career was always 26, 27. Oh, yeah, I'm good. I'm going to be pretty close here. So that's how it all sort of played out before a week later we came into camp.
Well, I guess Piri Weepu had to wait till about 25, 26 when he was named as well. Piri Weepu, Hurricanes, Wellington. So you picked Piri. What's it like going to camp for the first time? And what's it like running out for your very first test?
When you go into camp, I don't know what it would have been like for Goldie, but I walked into camp and it felt like I was part of the furniture, like I'd been there for years. It was pretty welcoming. I think, obviously new coaching, new leadership, and I guess the chance to sort of, I wouldn't say change things, but create their own legacy as coaches. So yeah, everything was a bit quite welcoming. I felt like I'd been in the team for a couple of years when I'd only just stepped in there for the first day. It's also like Christmas. You get a shitload of gear. It's always good.
So how much gear do you actually get your first time? Are we talking
enough for your whole career? Enough for your whole career on the first day.
Is that right?
Yeah,
pretty much. That's if the cousins and the family and all that. But you get like for that campaign, for that India tour, you got like 8 different pairs of footwear, whether it was boots, casual shoes, running shoes, things like that, slides. Going to UK, it's cold. Okay, we'll take slides. You got a tracksuit. You got your tracksuit and your training gear all in one bag with your gym stuff and things like that, and then you got a few other bits and pieces that come along with it. Then there's like the number ones that you get given. Back then, you were given watches and sunglasses and things like that. I don't know what it's like now. Might be a bit different. Maybe there's no watches these days. But...
No, they get those flash watches, but they get them taken off them. Remember, they have to go. They go to the sponsors things, and there's like no. You get those. They're like your cap now. Like you get like every 15 tests or something. All of a sudden, you get a watch or something. That's when you finally cracked it. Yeah. We got they weren't big flash watches when I was getting them.
Nah, they were enough to tell the time anyway. That's hilarious. Not that I wore.
Mine had Steinlager written on mine. Did yours have Steinlager written on yours? It's like Steinlager made a watch. I mean,
that's dangerous. Time for a Steiny every hour.
Beer o'clock.
5 o'clock.
Wow.
Did you guys get the cars? There was always people in those Fords, right? But then they stopped doing that. Did you guys get the cars?
Oh yeah. Yep. I was part of the first round. Big Ford Falcon XR6. Man, there's no way you should be giving that to a 20-year-old. There's no way you should be giving that to them. Oh man, this thing was massive, and they were all the black XR6. That was just like that was a game changer. That was.
So, were they just on loan to you guys, or did you get to keep them?
No, they were on loan. It was the best part about it is it rolled over every
Oh, you get a new one.
15,000 Ks. Oh, I just got a little bit tired. The engine's just getting worn in. We'll get a new one. Go on. Where you go?
How
What do you want
awkward
this
was
to-
it when you had to give it back, though? Or did you just swap it to the guy who replaced you? Were you like, here's a text.
I
Oh,
don't know
here
about
you go,
you,
bro.
Piri, but
Car's yours.
every player that I've spoken to that got dropped, that was possibly the worst part of the whole deal, was I had to give the car back. So how am I going to get anywhere? Oh, I'm out. I'm gone,
Otherwise, the only other way to it is they'd actually ask you if you wanted to pay for the lease.
Yeah.
So you just...
and then you're like, you want me to pay for something?
Yeah.
It's like, what? That's when it really hits home, Piri. That's when it really hits home.
Pretty much.
Different world, Shirley. Different world.
When you went away for so if we were traveling to Hamilton, there'd be like 6 different cars there for the boys to use that weren't local boys. So there'd be I remember we were in Christchurch. Everyone kept blaming me for this one, but they gave us a XR8, and so obviously when you've got a XR8 that sounds pretty mean, you just want to make sure you go around town. But the boys never used to fill up after they used it. And so they kept blaming me because I would always take it. But I was like, nah, mate, if I'm going to be using it, I'll put a bit of petrol in there. I don't mind that. Because if I want to drive around and sound really cool with this mean-ass XR8, I'm going to be putting petrol in there.
Yeah. You were slowing down for the lights, You were starting to get the red light so you could then go again. You're like, God,
put it in neutral, give it a bit of a rev.
Yeah.
Give it a bit of a rev.
Right.
Yeah. We're talking about all the great things about being an All Black. And then we went to the games. And hey, we played in amazing stadiums against amazing teams.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the games, because I'd like to get back on the field. What was it like running out for your first test match? Piri?
It was actually pretty special. I remember I got given my first All Black jersey from Tana. And being another Wainui man, it made it pretty special for me. And then not only that, before I ran out, I found out where my older brother was, Billy, who was there with his wife, Belinda. And when I ran out, on the footage, you can see me sort of squinting in the distance because I know where he was. He's pretty much standing there in the aisle with one of the New Zealand flags. I was like, oh, there he is. But it was pretty special. I remember afterwards, I didn't really speak just because I couldn't explain to him and my sister-in-law what I was feeling. Like, it was a experience that I couldn't tell anyone about. I remember after I was getting interviewed and I had the same, I couldn't really talk. I couldn't explain exactly what I've just experienced. You just kind of had to be there to, or be in my shoes to actually experience that. It was actually very proud moment, considering my background was a league background and the Kiwis was meant to be my pathway. I'll kind of become the black sheep in the family. And so for me to get that opportunity was pretty special. And I know Mum and Dad would have loved to have come all the way over to the UK, but I will always cherish that opportunity that was given to me back in 2004. What made it even more special, other than my brother and sister-in-law being there and my jersey being presented, was that we were under a roof. Never experienced that before. The atmosphere in Cardiff was amazing. And that's what, I guess from there, you just didn't want to stop. So every opportunity that you got, you wanted to make sure that you put your best foot forward so that you got selected.
That's brilliant. I understand now why, after you got named an All Black, that there were 7 or 8 fellas running around Wainui with an All Black gear. There was the population of All Blacks in Wainui went up about 10 or 20% after you got named. Jeff, your first test match?
Look, I was really lucky that it was an old school tour. So we'd started and we'd sort of been going for almost a month over in the UK. So I'd played a heap of other games sort of going through. So, it wasn't like I was uncomfortable. The All Blacks expectation of playing for the All Blacks, I got that out of my system pretty quickly because I'd played every game. I'd go from Saturday to Wednesday to Saturday. We only took we only, like I said, 30 players for the whole tour. So they only took a couple of wingers, I think maybe 3 wingers. So I was playing every game or sitting on the bench. So you were just sort of in the cycle. So then when we got to Edinburgh, of course, I was coming and playing in Dunedin at the time in Otago. It was almost a familiar feel about it. Funny that, in terms of the sister city type thing, where you felt, felt this was a bit of a background there. And then Murrayfield, it was, and I tell you what, it was similar. It was 2 degrees. It was freezing, absolutely freezing in Edinburgh. And we played in a half a stadium, and I got changed in a marquee out the back because they hadn't finished the changing rooms. So this beautiful stadium, they'd only done half of it, and then on one half there was these 2 white marquees, which the 2 teams were. You imagine how warm it was in those things. Like, it was ridiculously cold. But it was the only time I ever wore a long sleeve jersey. But it was sort of, we were in the cycle of, we've been winning games, and so all of it was amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I'd sort of performed a few of the things, performed a haka. So this was probably the first time singing the anthem, and then it sort of went up a gear. And I think the upside was that, for me, is that we smoked them. So it felt really comfortable. You're just playing, and you're dreaming about this opportunity. But I'd sort of already tasted it by having played some other games. So for a lot of people, it's very, very different. A lot of these guys don't get that luxury now. It's, you're into the heat of battle straight away. Whereas I almost got a wee lead in. This is okay. There's the expectation. We were winning games comfortably. I got a taste of it, of what the jersey probably means more a week later when we lost to England, because then the hurt that comes along and the disappointment when you're feeling as though you're indestructible, that makes it really, really tough. So I think my first tour, I got a bit of everything. I got the whole lot, all the kit, all the experience, the highs of being an All Black, and then the lows of not being successful. I was well and truly, after about 6 weeks on the road, when I got home, I'd sort of been through it all.
Did after that, and the ABs they gave Scotland a bit of a hiding. You scored a few tries as well. Did you think after that, gee, this test match stuff is pretty good?
Yeah, but the one thing we had with the group is that they'd all been through some hardship at some point. There's a lot of senior players that knew that's not always going to be like that. And the worst thing about it was, and this is the thing, is I'd kicked a conversion in the game as well. So that meant Laurie thought I could kick. So then, anyone can make the kick to make it like 45 or 50. Anyone makes that conversion. Yeah. I was playing England at Twickenham next week, where literally pretty much everyone in the stadium hated you. And so I couldn't throw the thing over to save my life. Like, honestly, and I think I kicked 3 out of 9. And Fitzy kept pointing for the post, and I kept going, no. I love the days nowadays. We'll go for territory. We'll go for the corner.
Yeah.
And all of them for about 45 out, slightly on the angle. You get those every day, Fitzy. I'm all over those. Man.
You mentioned, you've already had a few games because it was a proper tour. Do we need to bring those proper tours back?
And we're going to next year, South Africa, yes, right, Piri?
Exactly.
That's going to be game on. Like I got to do it in '96. I 100% believe in the tour, and we've seen the Lions already. What the momentum and the debate and discussion. Let's be honest, we all know that. If you're talking about for teams coming, I mean, even when Ireland came here and they played a couple of games around their 3-test series, so much better for everyone in terms of getting to know teams. And I think the players, everyone loves a scenario of coming on tour. Actually, in saying that, you might as well think the French are only here for 3 tests. They've got 44 management. They've got 44 management.
Sounds like they got too much money.
It was insane. We thought their bus was arriving in Dunedin. It was the other bus. It was the management's bus. And then the players arrived after.
That's so French, though, isn't it? That is so French.
Yeah, right, but no one can speak English and do the post-match
Of course,
none of them can do a post-match interview.
Right, Surly, gee, I'm really sorry. We've run out of time to go over our debuts. So
I was just going to say, I've made a similar phone call from a court session to my dad, and he just hung up and told me to have a glass of water. He didn't believe for a second I'd been called into the All Blacks. So tough scenes there, Paulie.
Oh, gee. Right, let's have a look back at last week's punting. We probably shouldn't because it was horrible.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move on.
We'll start. Who did we have last week? We had Steve Devine. He had one bet, a $100 multi. The Māori to win, All Blacks to win, Wallabies to win, Argentina to win. Well, he got 2 out of 4. No good. He's down 600 for the season. Surly had 2 bets. Māori to win by 1-12 into Argentina to win. That was no good. And then he had the All Blacks to win by 11-20 into the Wallabies to win by 11-20. That was no good. Surly is now down $176.52 for the season. I had the Māori to win by 13 or more. Oh, boy. And then I also had a same-game multi, France plus 17.5, Severis to score right. Gee. So I was down 100 for the week. I'm up $1,008.58 for the season, though.
Keep plugging that one, though.
One winning bet. Here he is.
Yeah, exactly. You're always going to be up, right? You get
That's the only reason this podcast's still going. It was meant to just be Super Rugby, but because he's going so well on the punt, he just dragging it on.
Playing with a straight bat for the rest of the season now. Well, look, let's have a look back at the weekend, and there are a number of internationals. We're probably not going to be able to touch on all of them because I'm going to get kicked out of this room at 10 o'clock on the button. So why don't we look at the All Blacks first? All Blacks, France, and look, a lot of pundits were saying this was an under-strength French side, that the All Blacks possibly could put a few points on them. And the bookies, to be fair, agreed with the pundits, opened up the All Blacks at around 16.5 point, 17.5 point favourites. And the market said, yes, the All Blacks are going to win this quite easily, because that got moved to 21.5, minus 21.5, the All Blacks by the time we got to kickoff. So there was a whole heap of, I guess, confidence around how the All Blacks would go. Someone forgot to tell the French, though. They put up a hell of a fight, and it was a great test match. Historically, All Blacks are fairly slow to start. But if we look back at that, Surly, what are your major takes from that first test?
Well, we probably would have covered the line if it wasn't for 2 people in the TMO box, but I'm sure we'll touch on that shortly. I think historically all the signs were there, wasn't it, that the All Blacks typically don't put teams away comfortably in the first test of the year. And saying that, I thought they played well enough too. I really enjoyed the style of play they played. It was fast, quick ruck speed. They moved the ball. The French were certainly up for it. They came in with a really solid game plan of more just putting the ball in the right areas, putting it up, which I wonder if that changed once Will Jordan moved to the wing, that whole aerial target, because we saw how good Will Jordan was in the Super Rugby final, and then a smaller body in DMAC. Perhaps then they moved to a more aerial kicking game, but they just wanted to put the ball in the right areas and try force the All Blacks into mistakes. I thought the All Blacks attack looked incredibly exciting, and I'm keen to see how that progresses over the course of this year, because you'd have to think things are only going to click into gear more from here. But yeah, frustrating watch with those TMO tries. I think I spoke on it last week. You asked what the biggest thing was that's changed rugby at the moment. When a try is awarded and you have anxiety about whether it is going to be a try, then that takes so much out of the fan experience, doesn't it? But overall, I enjoyed this game. The French brought what we thought they would: passion, pride, never going to roll over. And the All Blacks, I think, laid the platform for what is going to be an exciting year, where we see them be a bit more adventurous and move the ball this year and play with width and speed, which is exciting.
Piri, if we look back at that first test, there are a number of bright spots for the All Blacks. Fabian Holland looked like he'd been in that black pack for years and years. Thought he played a massive, massive game. Geordie Barrett looked like he hadn't left the country, like he'd been here and just slotted in really, really nicely. If you look back, what's your, I guess, synopsis on the game?
Well, I've got to be honest with you. Paulie. I didn't actually watch. I actually had to take care of my under-13 league team while the game was being played, feeding them, making sure that they were fed and looked after really well. All I could do was quickly have a quick squiz of the updates on Tribe to make sure that we were winning at the time. So, but I didn't, and I haven't had a chance to actually have a proper look at the game. I've been pretty busy the whole weekend, but I mean, the biggest thing was that how close the scoreline was. I thought that we didn't quite appreciate that the French would actually come to play. Now, it's not easy playing the French. Like you the first game they might be a bit I wouldn't say standoffish, but it's like that they actually get a feel of how you're going to play, and then the second game it's a totally different team, which is what I've had happened to us before. Is the French are a different team every time. They're not the same team. They always sometimes they'll show up, and then other times they'll just go wandering. But I feel for this is a good, I guess, look at how the boys want to play, and then from here they've just got to make sure that they rectify some of those issues that they had during the game, which allowed them to keep them into the game. So, yeah, I can't really explain too much about it because I'm too busy running around after 12-year-olds, making sure that they listen to us while we're trying to feed them and things like that. So I never had much time to watch the game.
Right, Goldie, I know you watched the game because I heard you talking about it at the time. If being there live, did you get the feeling that the All Blacks were in danger of losing at any stage during the match?
Well, yeah, they were only up by 1 point. They're in danger. It was a one-score game in the last 15 to 20 minutes. And ultimately, that's an area and a place you don't want to be as an All Black side. The reality is that France took their opportunities to score points when they had them on offer, and we didn't. And that's the difference between the two teams on the night, and particularly on the scoreboard. We did a lot of really good things, like Surly said. We showed some real positive attacking intent. More importantly for me, and I'm hoping it was going to be the same philosophy when Will Jordan started at fullback for the game, was Damien McKenzie's willingness to bring the ball back and for us to look to counter-attack. Not necessarily moving the ball, but getting it back to a position where they could look to play a little bit of phase play rather than trying to... There's a lot of rugby's trying to look for these 50-22s, and quite often that philosophy going in, if the opposition doesn't present you those opportunities, you've got to change. Where it looked as though every time D-Mac caught it, it's let's just get back to halfway. Let's just get back to halfway, reload and have a crack and see what we can play from there. And so all of a sudden, I would say it felt as though the ball got to the edge more than it has probably for a long time. We were managing to get the ball to the outside channel, and we got called back for a number of things. And look, I think 2 out of the 3 TMO disallowed tries, I think are fair because they're knock-ons. The obstruction one I take exception to. But ultimately, this was a one-score game. Everything France would have wanted to happen in this game did happen. But let's be honest, we need to be better. Like that given all the experience we had on the field versus what they had on the field, and you'll say, well, we still had a lot of young guys out there. Yeah, we did some debutants, but the rest of the guys were they should know how to control a game like this and finish. So we'll be better for it. I think in some ways we're better off for the fact that it was tight, because if we might have relaxed if we got a 20-25 point win. I like the fact we're under pressure. There's a chance, like Piri said, that France will show up again. You know, there's a chance they'll come to Wellington, and it won't. And there isn't a roof on it in Wellington, so it can be challenging. You look at the long-range weather forecast. All of a sudden, the rain comes in. Good chance it'll be windy. It's Wellington, so the contest is vastly different. Don't shake your head, Paulie. It's Wellington, but it'll be a different contest, right?
That probably suits the French, right? Their kicking game
was on point,
pretty sharp. Yeah,
on point. Their contestable kicks. If there's one area for Cam Royard that he needs to work on, because the rest of his game was outstanding, is his kicks need to be contestable, and we were just giving them time to catch, giving them the chance to take breaks, to slow down. Our kicking game needed to be better when we did decide to go to that. But more importantly, we got probably 4 guys a taste, right, of Test match footy. And they all did something positive through the course of their time on the park. Holland was really good. I thought Leo Willie handled himself well as well. The fact that he carried and got us some momentum in terms of getting some go-forward ball and some quick position.
As Jeff said, the second test is in Wellington, the Riviera of the South Pacific, and the reason we don't have a roof on our stadium is because we don't need it, because it's
Do you know your roof doesn't actually stop anyone getting wet? The part that you do have, because what happens is it rains and then the wind just blows it up into the back. I mean, if you've got a covered seat, you haven't really got a covered seat.
No, you've got to be in a box or one of the lounges to be out of the weather.
With the doors closed.
Yes, exactly. Surely, Jeff mentioned there that the All Blacks were getting it wide almost at will. Is this a sign that Razor is sort of developing another game plan for the All Blacks to use as we head into another World Cup, which is a little while away?
I hope so, because I wanted to see us be a bit more adventurous this year. Obviously, Razor's first year in charge last year, so he kind of had to roll with what he was given and what was implemented. But I think we'll see a bit more creativity this year, which is exciting for me, because we have the weapons to do so, right? We have so much attacking flair, and we can play a different brand to these teams. We don't need to try and match what the other team and their style of players. We can bring our own style of play to our strengths. And I enjoyed watching our attack. I think you could see multiple times throughout that game where they had 3 or 4 different processes, different maps that they implemented throughout different stages of the game. And at times it looked pretty silky for a first test. Then at times we missed opportunities. And I think that the second test, you'll expect them to build on top of that layering and just make some of those, or get rid of some of those little mistakes that they made at crucial times. But I think with ball in hand, we were able to lay a good platform, and now we just got to go to another level. But it was exciting for me to watch, because I want to see ball being moved to edges, width, getting Will Jordan, Rico Ioane, Proctor, guys like this, ball with time in hand, one-on-one, because that's when we look so dangerous. And Jeff mentioned D-Mac there. He reminded me of a bit of a rugby league fullback, Just catch the ball, get the ball to the middle of the park, up the guts. He's fearless, and a few times he wore some big shots, but he did exactly what he'd obviously been told to do, and then we can attack from there, both sides of the field. It's way more exciting to watch than a bit of force back and forward, and I think the force back would have suited the French, so it was a smart ploy from us.
Look, I think we're going to have to leave it there. Obviously, the game plan must have sort of changed slightly with Sevu Reece, unfortunately, having to leave the field almost straight after the kickoff. But let's move on to another test match that was played over the weekend. The Springboks played the Italians. At halftime, it looked like, business as usual. What the Springboks were up 28-3, I think it was. Everything was going to plan. And then the Italians sort of put up a wee bit of a fight. And then I guess the bomb squad comes on, and the Italians just tired slightly over that final 10, 15 minutes. And you can understand why. In fact, when the bomb squad comes on, fireworks go off in the stadium over there in South Africa. This is a big thing. Now, Jeff, if you look at that match, the first half, the Springboks sort of looked like the Springboks.
Yeah. I feared for Italy like when I looked at the fixtures coming up, I feared for them after the way the Springboks dismantled the Barbarians the week before. The Springboks just relaxed, sort of went to sleep a little bit after half-time. The Italian team, to their credit, started to play a lot better. Look, when the Springboks needed to, they stepped it up a gear to just give themselves a little bit of breathing room. I think that the score, reflected the fact that the Boks had it under control. And it happens quite often. You get up by 20-odd points at half-time, and it's hard to keep on. You're thinking to yourself, well, we're not going to lose this test match. And so they sort of just went about this back and forward arm wrestle for the last 40 minutes. So I think Rassie will give them an absolute ear bashing for that. And I expect something different this weekend from them. That the fact he'll be looking at what's coming up in the future, and he won't want them to relax. And yes, the bomb squad came on, and it took a toll in parts of the game, but not in a way where it was it didn't smash Italy out of the contest. So it's just another test match for them. In terms of we've done what we needed to do, we win. But I think it's a nice reminder that you got to keep fronting up. You got to keep preparing and playing well, and you got to play for the 80 minutes. Italy are not a team that will just go away. They're just not built like that. And so I thought they did well to fight in the second half and made it a contest that gave the Springboks something to think about.
Piri, obviously South Africa, a very, very tough place to go and play the Springboks, but the Italians put up a good fight in the end.
Yeah, I think it's been actually interesting to watch the Springboks. Like, I've seen a few highlights of their games, and like the style of footy that they're playing now, it's not the usual chuck it up the middle with their forwards anymore. They're actually using a bit of structure just so that they can free their speed out on the edges. And I think that's something that they're wanting to develop, I guess, moving into the next World Cup, that they don't have to worry about putting up a high ball, going to the air, doing a counter. They can actually play footy rather than smash and bash. They're actually utilising the size of their boys to hold up the fence, play a back door, and then use another big boy and sort of go either tip on and then he plays with the person wrapping around, or they go back door. I think we've seen it against the Barbars and against Italy as well. Just the fact that they're actually utilising their skills a bit more, which is something that we hardly see, because they're used to sort of just running into brick walls, utilising their forwards like that, and then sort of in the back end of the game they'll bring on their bomb squad and just try and repeat and do the exact same thing. Now I think that those boys can actually stay on the field a bit longer. Because they're actually not having to get up all the time, reload. They're actually moving and constantly moving forward, which has been good to see, that they're showing a different dynamic in the style of footy that they want to play.
Shirley Piri's right. The Springboks are showing some very, very good skills. In fact, I think the first try with a little kick put in behind a grubber, and I think it was Jesse Creel who came through and dotted down behind the Italian defence, just goes to show they don't just bash it up the middle. They've got skills out wide as well, and they always have, to be fair.
Oh, their back three is so deadly, and it has been for a while, so it's great to see them use it. They got footwork, they got power, they got speed. I think they had a disallowed try late in that game too, where Williams broke 5 or 6 tackles when they just kicked it to him at fullback, and then they ended up scoring on the far wing, and it was exciting to watch. I think we're seeing the Tony Brown factor come into play here as well. We'll know how creative he is with attacking shapes, and he's obviously being allowed to get a bit creative there for them. But this is exciting for South Africa, because all of a sudden they can play 2 or 3 different ways, and they can adapt to however the game's being played, and it makes them even more dangerous, because they have the attacking flair to do it. They've had it for a while, but now they're starting to unleash it a little bit, and it makes them a great watch as well.
Just the one thing I'm doing too. I mean, so Fasi, the fullback, didn't play from the week against the Barbarians. Neither did the Block. Neither did Feinberg Momazulu. So they had Willemse, Pollard at 10, and then they had Willie LaRue off the bench. I think this is not their number one lineup that played last weekend. I think these other players are actually their playmakers, and they're keeping the other guys in and around them in terms of their backline. Delende, Creel, Odinson and Colby are just outstanding. Colby's the best winger in the world. I don't care what anyone says. He is the most dangerous player, and he's great in the air chasing kicks. His footwork, I've said this in recent times, and it's the one thing I think other sides at the moment, you need players who can beat people and use their footwork. And whether it be France, Pinot, Villiers showed us on the weekend, and he's not even one of their starting top outside backs. He's very, very good. They've shown that you need people who've got footwork, and the Springboks, LeBock and Fasi, they've got some guys on the outside who are dangerous. So I think if they make those switches back, I think you'll see a more dominant performance. I think they're moving on, the Springboks. I think they're moving forward. They can do that other stuff anytime they like. They can go high, kick for line out, scrum, but they're trying to evolve their game. And we saw a little bit against the Barbarians, and as those other players I talked about get more of an opportunity, they're going to be seriously dangerous.
I can't wait for the 2 Springbok test matches over here later on in the season. They will be massive. Right, let's touch on one more of the internationals from the weekend. And it was the Fijians who put on a show against the Wallabies. I don't know what this means for the first test between the Wallabies and the Lions, but Fiji came to play. And I think, once again, the fact that they've got a number of players over in Europe, the fact they've got the Drua and Super Rugby, just gives them that I guess, that foundation to now launch and be not just competitive. Look, they could have won that game if not for, and we go back to the TMO again, for a silly Aussie winger to put his foot out when he shouldn't have. The Fijians score a brilliant try in the corner, and we may have a different game on our hands. But Surly, that was a sensational performance from the Fijians.
Yeah, it was, and they probably still had more in them, to be fair. Like, it was their first hit out for a while, I think, as well. And, yeah, gee, I was gutted for them, I was watching this one a couple deep on a Super Sunday, hoping that they could pull it off, and I was surrounded by a few Fijian boys as well who were in the North Coast side, and they were really cheering for the lads to get home. And I thought they were going to do it for a while there, but yeah, unfortunate for them. Geez, it's worrying for Australia though. Like, they lose Noa Lolosio as well. You'd have to think he'll be out for a little bit. They're going to have to go to well and truly another level to take on this Lions side. But maybe that put a bit of a rocket up them as well. But yeah, the TMO in this one was incredibly frustrating as well. But I enjoyed watching this game. I actually thought Newcastle was a cool place for it to be played to. It seemed like they really got into it. A good crowd out there, nice day. The Fijians came to play, and there would have been some sore Australian bodies, that's for sure.
Piri, I don't know if you ever played against Fiji for the All Blacks, but boy, oh boy, they are a much improved side from even 5 years ago.
No, I played against them when I was with the New Zealand Māoris in 05, before we played against the British and Irish Lions, actually. And we had one of our old teammates in the opposition in Sirili Bobo. So I told Ricky Flutie, mate, just stay on the outside of him. Don't let him go on the outside, because if he does, we're screwed. Don't bother trying to make any tackles, because we need to bring him closer to us on where the forwards are. But yeah, I guess disappointing to the Drua throughout Super Rugby. Didn't have that same sort of flair that we had seen, but good to see the way that the Fijian team come together. Maybe we need to look at these the TMO around what they can actually pull up. I reckon if it's foul play, they should stick to foul play. If the referee sees something totally different, let the referee make his own decisions, because I feel they're getting too much involved in a game where if the referee and the ARs can't see it themselves, if it's a foul play, then by all means jump in so you can have your little 2 cents. But I feel like the TMOs should stay out when it comes to little decisions like that around the foot going out or the big toe going out on the sideline there. But I thought the way that the Fiji played against Australia was awesome. It's exactly what we expect from them, what we like to see. Fast footy, them throwing the ball around, and not only going from one side to the other. It's the numbers that are actually following up in the play as well. It's not just your backs you're seeing there. You see a lot of the forwards actually chasing the boys once they've made a break. You see the lower numbers actually getting up the middle of the field and chasing to be an option. So, it could be quite concerning for the Wallabies leading into their first test against the British and Irish Lions. But in the same way as well, as that they could actually get some good learnings from it going up against quality Fijian team.
Jeff, your quick thoughts on the Wallabies Fiji test, and do the Wallabies have a lot to fear as they approach the first test against the Lions?
Fiji on their day at Nigley, difficult to play against. You present them opportunities and they can hurt you from long range, and they were unlucky not to, like you say, score another try, which would have changed the context of this game. Australia will be a little bit concerned. Lolosio reports today say he's recovered fine, so that's helpful for them. I think ultimately the challenge they've got is in Swahili is they don't know where to play him because at the moment it's a really hard. Rugby's not an easy game. Just quickly to go into a position and then instinctively be able to make good decisions. It's not. It's one of those things. Like I can say this about Rieko Ioane. You can't just sometimes. He hasn't played on the wing for a number of years now. That hasn't been his role. So he, even on the weekend, instinctively wasn't in the right place at the right time. Did some things that didn't work. So I think for Australia, I think they've got to work out what their best combinations of player are. And I'm not sure Herman Centre. I'd like to see him on the wing where it's a bit simpler for him. so he's as dangerous on a one-on-one situation rather than get him a situation where he's got a bit of space. That'd be all I'd say about the Wallabies, is that I think that they've got 2 weeks to work out what their best combination of players is. And I'm not sure Nick White, to me, is the answer. I'm really not sure. Whether or not he's still at the level he needs to be. I think their biggest issue is selection. It's not necessarily the way that they want to play. They've got to find the right guys for that first test match in 2 weeks. They've got some questions they need answered.
Righty-ho. A quick question now for everyone. We'll go to you first, Shirley. Give me an All Black who didn't play in the first test, who you think will be playing in the second test.
I think the most straight-up one for me is Imoni Rarawa. I'd be chucking him on the wing for Sevu Reece, who won't be out there, especially if we're going to play width and get the ball to edges. I think that suits him so much. He can make something happen from nothing. One-on-one, he is so dangerous. So I'd like to see Imoni come onto that wing. I'd love to see Tavatava Nawai make his way onto the bench as well.
Piri, your player for the second test?
I was pretty much the second one there. Silly was
Tavatava Nawai.
Nawai.
Yeah.
Give him an opportunity. Don't know whether it would be on the wing or at second 5'8".
Or on the side of the scrum.
Yeah, well, I was going to say you can have a competition with the sevens to see who gets the most jackals in the game.
Jeff?
Look, I'm actually, as much as I'd like to see Imoni, his impact for me would be on the bench. I want them to stay with Mackenzie at fullback for another game and Will Jordan on the wing. I just want to see how that plays out. I think if push came to shove and we were going into a must-win game somewhere, I get the sense this would be the combination I would see. So for me, I'm quite happy with what we've got there. Like the challenge they have is giving guys opportunity. So that's the one for me. Imoni just comes onto the bench. I'm not sure Timothy's going to get his chance this week. I just think I might wait one more week with him. Quincy Pye made a nice impact off the beauty of having Mackenzie at fullback is that all of a sudden you don't have to carry a 10 on the bench, and you've got you can pick a couple of players. If you wanted to go the other way, having Timothy there would be just as exciting for us to me. Two guys who can create things in different ways would be really nice to have on the bench.
Yeah, I'd love to see Tavatava Nawai get a go in Wellington, even if it is just off the bench. Right, we've got to get to the punting now. We'll start with you, Shirley. Where's your $100 going this weekend?
Struth. On the spot here, but I'm just going to go with the heart. All Blacks 13 plus. Don't even know what it's paying. Just the one bet. They'll hit their straps this week.
All Blacks 13 and over, $1.52, $100
Oh,
off.
slim pickings. Wow.
Way to go. You're on the way back with that. Yeah, all over it.
And I'm not even sure it's going to happen if it's a cold, wet night in Wellington. But, hey, look, I'm already down. What more could go wrong?
Right, Jeff?
$1.52.
So I've gone weather-wise. I've gone weather. New Zealand 1 to 12 at $3.50. $50 on that.
That's probably smarter.
And I've got a multi, and I don't know, I can't trust many of these teams. Fiji to beat Scotland. The All Blacks clearly to win head-to-head. Argentina to beat England after shitting the bed. Sorry, I can't say that. After being terrible last weekend, I've got them winning. And Japan beating Wales again. I've got that as well. And that multi's up to about $8. I want 50 on that.
Oh, can I Control-C, Control-V, copy-paste? I wish you came to me second, Paulie. Those were some great bets there, Jeff. Well done.
Okay, Piri, where's your 100 going?
To be a draw at halftime and then New Zealand to win. Put 50 on that. And then Fiji, Japan, and New Zealand to win. Multi, 50 on that.
Well, nice. Okay, I'm...
You're going to take the $1.05 or something, are you? Just to get another $5. Is that what you're thinking, Paulie? Just go, 1,105, whatever it is.
Yeah, he's just going to block this week.
Exactly.
Do you know what he does? Is he picks players before the team's out, so if they're not named, the bet's void, and he doesn't lose anything. He just sits on the wing.
Okay. This is what
Tavatava Nawai if he starts. Yeah,
this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take a same game multi, and obviously we don't know the teams, so I'm not going to name. No, hold on. I'm not going to name players' names. I'm going to take the All Blacks to win by 1 to 12, and then the two starting wingers for the All Blacks to score a try. Okay? 2 starting wings. So whoever gets named on the left and the right wings for the All Blacks, those guys to score a try and the All Blacks to win by 1-12. There we go.
Paulie, I might message you my bets, mate. I really lack creativity there. You caught sending the run sheet through 2 minutes before we started had me rattled. So,
Okay, look, I do admit I sent it through. I thought I sent it through yet. It was set. It was sitting in my drafts. So I do apologise for that.
To be fair, I panicked because when I read it, I was like, "Does that mean it's tomorrow? Wednesday?" I honestly thought, "I'm just sitting here for 24 hours, am I?" And then I'll be here's the next one. Yeah, I almost because I wouldn't have been because I'm going to play golf tomorrow. So you're
good man.
However, Surly, we do $100 bet every single podcast.
Yeah, look, I don't want the season. Don't flip this back on me, mate. Come on. You got to be better, Paulie. I thought we were mixing it up this week, you know?
All righty. I guess we'll be seeing Jeff in Wellington this weekend at some stage.
Double header this week. As well.
Oh, yeah, of course. Black Ferns on.
Should be a good game.
You bringing the golf clubs?
Actually, no, I'm not. Because I've seen the weather reports.
I was going to say, might be a bit dusty.
Put my 21s in for golf. Oh, yeah.
But he was out to Wainui. It's always sunny in Wainui.
Oh, yeah, of course, bro. Of course. Boys play out in the rain in Wainui.
Oh, crikey. Righty-ho. Thanks to Piri Weepu. Thanks to Jeff Wilson. Thanks to Ben Searle. And thanks to you guys for listening once again to the Pick and Go podcast. I don't know how we got through it, but we did. And we'll see you back again next week for another edition of the Pick and Go podcast.